In fact, for Yuka Roya, she's starting off talking about that in the business news. The truckers' protest has started to have a serious impact, really, on businesses, both in Canada and in the US as well, aren't they?
That's right, on both sides of the border, Stuart. The ongoing blockades at border crossings are exacerbating a supply crunch already caused by the pandemic and bad weather. Now, along with the crossing in Coot in the west, the convoy has been blocking the Ambassador Bridge connecting Ontario to Detroit, the heartland of American auto production. A lack of part supplies are biting car makers on both sides. Ford says its plant in Windsor, Ontario has reopened, but it and another plant are operating at reduced capacity. GM, Honda and Chrysler owner Stellantis are also having to cut operating hours, while a major Toyota factory is set to remain shut for the rest of the week. Now, the Ambassador Bridge is the busiest US-Canadian border crossing, carrying 25% of all trade between the two countries. More than $320 million of goods on average are transported through the bridge every day. Some companies are now turning to air transport, which could drive up costs and prices. Now, the latest supply disruptions come as consumers are already hit with rising prices. Inflation in the United States jumped 7.5% in January compared to a year earlier. That's the highest pace in 40 years and more than most economists had expected. The numbers will raise pressure on the US Federal Reserve to act quickly in an effort to bring inflation back towards its target of 2%. America's central bank has already set the stage to begin raising interest rates next month, and some economists are calling for the bank to adopt an even more hawkish stance. Some consumers are already struggling to make ends meet.
Rent has went up a lot. Like, it's not easy to get apartments nowadays. There's a lot of people in the shelters. The shelter system is actually pretty packed right now.
I have noticed all of my fun money has gone to food, gone to like just normal everyday things I need to live. Yeah, so I'm not going out to see friends as often. I'm not going out to concerts. I'm not spending money on art, which is like what I would usually do.
Now, of course, inflation is rising across much of the world as economies recover from the pandemic. Earlier in our programme, we asked the market analyst Rayhan Bison what major central banks are expected to do in coming weeks.
As you know, demand is rising, wages are high, commodity prices are skyrocketing, and there is still supply chain issues, shortages. So we're also keeping an eye on the potential Ukraine and Russia, hopefully not turning into a war, but tension is also affecting the commodity prices, leading to higher inflation. So seeing all these central banks around the world, except for Turkey, are talking about raising rates or have already begun raising them. So over the coming months, the narrative will be high rates and aggressive central banks. So maybe investing in things which are not directly controlled by the central banks, by the Fed, might be a good idea, like the energy.
Well, that latest US inflation data caused a sell-off on the markets. Major US indexes were all sharply down at the close, with the Nasdaq dropping more than 2%, as you can see there. Asia markets are tracking that movement this Friday. Most major indices are heading for a weak finish to the week. Tokyo's Nikkei is closed, though, for a national holiday. Now, last September, El Salvador became the first country in the world to make Bitcoin legal tender. But now its cryptocurrency experiment appears even riskier than before. But despite warnings from international financial institutions, the country's president is standing firm behind the move. Erin Ogankie reports.
Last September, El Salvador became the world's first country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, despite widespread skepticism. 5 months on, the IMF is urging the Central American country to reverse the risky move.
There are large risks associated with the use of Bitcoin on financial stability, financial integrity and consumer protection, as well as the associated fiscal contingent liabilities.
But the IMF's warnings have done little to sway Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele, who dismissed the institution's plea with an ironic post on his Twitter account in late January. Days earlier, the government purchased an additional 410 bitcoins for $15 million, as the currency was trading at its lowest point in 6 months. In the meantime, the president's Bitcoin experiment has struggled to gain traction in El Salvador. Only a fraction of businesses have started accepting Bitcoin payments, with the government's official cryptocurrency application plagued by technical problems. And a recent survey shows that over 70% of the population has little or no confidence in the digital coin.
Me da igual que lo quiten o esté, porque para mí no es ningún beneficio eso. Yo aquí vengo a trabajar solo con el dólar. Bitcoin no acepto yo.
As the Salvadoran government defends its use of Bitcoin, other nations are cracking down. Russia, India, and China are among the biggest countries to have banned or proposed banning cryptocurrencies in recent months.
And that's it from the business desk for now. I'll be back with more later.
Thank you very much, Yuka Roya, with the business news for you.